On October 5, 1966, Gene Roddenberry was on top of the world. The show he had dreamed about for so long was finally on the air and garnering some good reviews. On that day, however, he received one of the most important reviews he had ever read. It was a short note delivered to his office that read, in part, "Just heard the good news. Looks like you really have a hit on your hands, and we all appreciate your efforts. Signed, Love, Lucy." Though Star Trek fans may not know who Lucy was, it was certainly no mystery to Gene. She was the one who made it all happen. In fact, it would not be a stretch to say that if not for Lucy, there would be no Star Trek. So who was Lucy? Well, none other than Lucille Ball. So how did the most famous redhead in history pave the way for the most famous franchise in history? There is more to the story. By the 1950s, Lucille Ball had already made a name for herself in film and as the star of a popular radio show called My Favorite Husband. But she really shot to stardom thanks to the sitcom I Love Lucy. Along with her business partner, co-star, and husband Desi Arnaz, they formed Desilu Studios and changed the business of television. They were the first interracial couple ever depicted on television, the first show to ever have a pregnancy, and they invented the rerun. In addition to that, when the old RKO studio and backlot came up for sale, they were smart enough to purchase it. This allowed them not only to produce more shows, but to rent out production space for others. Among the shows that ended up filming on that property were The Adventures of Superman, The Untouchables, and The Andy Griffith Show. The success, however, took its toll on the marriage, and in 1960 the couple divorced. They tried to remain business partners, but it didn't work out. The company had some setbacks, and Desi had difficulty with the pressure, so in 1962 they made a deal. Lucy bought out Desi's share for $2.5 million, making her the first female CEO of a Hollywood studio. Determined to bring the company back, she hired a CBS executive named Oscar Katz to be her vice president, and together they were able to make the company successful again. And it was during that time period that Lucille Ball heard about a show that CBS had passed on. For some reason that is lost to history, she initially misunderstood the concept and thought it was about a traveling band of USO performers in World War II. When she learned the true vision of the show as being of a space western, she liked the concept. There was only one problem. Members of her board disagreed. But, against their advice, Lucy produced the first Star Trek pilot, The Cage, to air on NBC. The executives at NBC, however, were less than thrilled when they saw the final product. The show was very expensive to produce, and they found it too cerebral. They wanted more action. For all intents and purposes, Star Trek was dead. The chances of getting a shot at a second pilot were almost impossible. But Lucy still believed in the project, and in a very unexpected move, put up the money for another pilot. Gene Roddenberry knew he had to get this one right. He worked hard on fleshing out the characters, especially Spock, as well as the episodes that would follow the pilot. He also faced one big problem. There was someone else who was not happy with the pilot. Jeffrey Hunter, the star of the show, who played Captain Pike. Hunter and his wife went to a screening of the show, and they both hated it. A couple of weeks later, he informed Roddenberry that he was out. As luck would have it, there was another actor that everyone liked who had just become available. He had just finished another show called For the People that had recently been canceled. With William Shatner signed on to play Captain Kirk and the story and character problems ironed out, Roddenberry went to work on the second pilot titled Where No Man Has Gone Before. This time it delivered what NBC had wanted, and in February 1966 they informed Desilu that it would be on the fall schedule. The question then became, how would the audience and science fiction fans receive it? So, later that year, while appearing as a guest at the 24th Annual Science Fiction Convention in Cleveland, Ohio, Gene decided to find out. He showed the second pilot to the audience and asked what they thought of it, to which he received a standing ovation. On Thursday, September 8, 1966, at 8:30 p.m., television audiences got their first look at Star Trek. Instead of leading with Where No Man Has Gone Before, NBC decided to air The Man Trap, the fourth episode filmed, ironically directed by Mark Daniels, who had directed the first season of I Love Lucy. Though the show did receive some negative reviews, one from Gene's own father who preferred the writing he did on westerns, it did get good write-ups in The Hollywood Reporter and the TV Guide. But it was Lucy's note that was the most important notice of all. Star Trek would only last 3 seasons, but the reruns would only make its popularity grow, and it was not long before the fans got to see their favorite characters again. What followed were films, more television shows, an endless selection of merchandise, and a popularity that grows even more each decade. It was not long after the debut of Star Trek that Lucy would go on to sell Desilu Studios to Paramount for $17 million, almost 15 more than what she had paid for it a few years earlier. Star Trek would make Gene Roddenberry one of the most beloved figures in television and science fiction history, and it was all due to one of the most beloved redheads of all time, Lucille Ball. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please hit the like button and be sure to subscribe so you can see what subject we'll explore next.